Good morning, beautiful light beings. How are we today? I apologize for my look right now. I just woke up from my day nap because I sleep during the day like a vampire because I work the night shift. Got my buddy, my guardian, Raven with me. So I wanted to talk about the other day. So I was explaining to a customer at work that I don't smoke or drink. I don't smoke weed. I don't do anything, right? And she looked at me and she was like, "How?" And like lost it. And I really, at first, I just laughed. I was like, "Okay," like, and she laughed. But that moment kind of sat with me for a minute, and I thought to myself, "How do it? How do I do it every day without any kind of external force, right? Or internal force, if you're smoking, I guess. How do I do it?" And I realized I get more thrill out of facing life than I do from trying to subdue it or change my view or spectrum of it. I get more of this like rush, like, yes, pain, yes, love, yes, sadness. I take it on like I don't know. There's something more to it. And this doesn't make me better or worse than anybody else on here, just so you know. I'm not trying to brag or anything like, "Oh, I'm sober." If you feel like you gotta smoke, then that's you, man. That's that's your thing. But I really sat with this for a while, and then, yeah, I'd smoked weed for a long time, every day for a long time, and I realized it just came to a point where like facing life was more exciting to me. Like smoking pot just kind of lost its edge, right? At first, you get that little bit of anxiety, and you get a little giggly, and you're like, "Oh, what's this?" Everything's kind of new, and after a while, that kind of fades, and it became stale. It became kind of like gray, right? If I had to describe it as a color, like kind of like gray, yeah, right. So, and then now, it's like with the sober mind, every moment is intense, every moment. So like when I leave this house, when I go for a walk and I come across different energies, different people, it's it hits me like that much more, that much harder. And I kind of like it. I kind of get this little rush out of it. I'm like, yeah, like even when you don't like something, especially when somebody doesn't like you or doesn't act, very kind or meaningful, right? They're just nasty and whatever. It's like, yes, like this energy, right? What do you? It's like this. I don't know how to explain it. Other than that, it's like taking on energy. I decided to, instead of withdrawing within myself, which I do naturally anyways, I'm a deep thinker, but instead of like kind of hiding within myself and allowing everything to kind of glaze over my outside experience, I kind of step forward into the outside experience. Like, yeah, bring it on, kind of, right? Um, so, yeah. And it hits different when you tell people that you don't drink or smoke or do anything. And they're like, "What?" It and I'm realizing, there's very few of us. That seems to be like the narrative that like you need something, and I'm here to tell you I'm perfectly fine. I feel great. My dreams have been coming back. They're very prominent and very powerful. That was the biggest thing that I noticed right away. When you quit smoking weed after a while, get ready, because your body and your mind and your spirit is going to seek balance, and so you're going to have some crazy dreams, man. Or maybe not. Maybe that was just my experience and a few others that I've spoken to. But yeah, I just kind of decided to step into life as opposed to stepping away from it or taking a break. No more breaks for me. I just feel like I finally want to experience life. And I think that's a big part of it, right? We all get into drugs and alcohol because we think we want to experience life a different way. We want to change it. We want to mask it. Some people drink, I want to say, the right way, right? They go out and they have a good time, and that's part of it. Is like, I want to experience this. right? I want to see what happens when I let go of my inhibitions and kind of experience this other side of self, right? So, in that aspect, sure, do whatever makes you feel good. But, if we're all being honest, it doesn't make you feel good. Even in the moment. Like, I think people are just in a state of mind or a state of being that has tricked them in some way, that you feel, oh, I'm more confident when I drink. It's like, well, no, your brain level has ceased. You have slowed your process down. And that's good sometimes, don't get me wrong. But you can do that naturally. You don't have to do anything, as a matter of fact. You can just walk out and be confident. It's real. Like when I go to a party now or something like that, I get offered a beer, which, like, I don't go out to parties, but if I were to go out to a party, a few times I've visited my friends and stuff, um, you get offered a beer, you say, "Oh no, thank you, I don't drink." And they kind of look at you, especially if they've known you for a while, and they're like, "Wait, really? When did that happen?" I'm like, "I don't know. I stopped keeping count." And they're just like, "Oh, okay." And it really kind of disrupts that whole, like, um, I don't know how to explain it. It's almost like I was drinking and smoking for so long that life itself was the new experience. I look forward to every day because every day is different. Every day is new. It's not the same old, same old. It's only the same old uh, in your state of being. For me, I see people as walking lights, basically. Okay, so I have a little bit of a different mind there. It's like what you're saying is like a small, and what you're doing is a very small portion of what I see you as. You are this glowing entity to me. Not only do I see aura and stuff like that, but I also see the inside. Bam, you're light, right? um, and so it's a different perspective. I don't see people just like for their behaviors and their thing and their face and what they're wearing, right? Those are all like external characteristics. When I look into somebody's eyes or even just at somebody, I see that vibration. You have little wisps of light that kind of fly off you and they change, and not so much color. I don't see too much color. It's more of like it's mostly white, and they tend to wisp out, especially if somebody's like really strong or like experiencing something like a strong emotion, or if they're deep in thought, you'll see these little like sparks, like. And that's the best way I can describe it. I know I sound like I'm out of my mind, but that's what I experience. That's my experience with aura. But there's like this, even me, I could see it, right? So I don't know if you see it, but I see it. The glowing. Everybody glows. Everybody has like a nice light on them, kind of just like covering them, kind of like a shield. It's pretty cool. But anyway, so I wanted to talk about that. I think that's an interesting perspective. And people who have known me for a long time, like, how'd you do it? And it's not exactly how, right? I a long time ago, I took on Les Brown's lesson, um, or actually, no, Eric Thomas. I'm sorry, Eric Thomas lesson. What is your why? Why do you get up in the morning? Why do you put on clothes? Why do you go to work? Why do you breathe? Why do you eat? Why do you not eat? Why do it's I focus more on the why. So it's not so much how. Why is like, well, because it wasn't doing me any good. Like I was spending money I didn't have, um, doing things I didn't necessarily want to do, um, wasting precious hours, even if it's just sitting in silence for a little while. People are afraid to do that too. I like to sit and just ruminate with myself. Sometimes I'm thinking nothing. Sometimes I'm thinking all kinds of thoughts. Sometimes I'm paying attention to my body. Like I'll feel like, I know most people feel anxiety different ways, but the way that I feel it is like almost like a coldness or like a sharpness. It feels like an attack, basically, right? So anxiety to me is like more of like it gets through your bioelectric field, your aura, your energy, and it's like bing, and there's like these little shots of, the best way I can describe it is cold, right? Um, and it creates this like tension. It's like I know I sound like I'm nuts right now, but it's like a sound without being a sound, and it's like a feeling without being a feeling. It's very interesting. So I do that a lot. I pay attention to my body. I'm like, okay, where do I feel this? When I think of different things, how does it make me feel? When I think of Kakarot, right, or Goku, Dragon Ball Z, and he's doing the and he's powering up, right? See, every time hair stands right up. All I have to do is think of it and just imagine standing, like he just got knocked down from life. He's at its end, and he just stands up and he does that smirk, and he's like, boom, and he just powers up. And yeah, every single time, goosebumps. Okay, so I pay attention to my feelings there. Everything starts to raise. Raising my energy. Right? Internally, I imagine screaming in my own voice, just powering up after a big knockdown, right? So that's the context. So it gives you power, and yeah, so stuff like that I do a lot. I pay attention to my body. I pay attention to where the energy is. Where do I feel it? And what thoughts invoke some of these feelings. And yeah, that's an important part too. Like if you're getting into therapy or anything like that, a big part of is awareness, right? So awareness on your body. And another reason why I don't like taking anything because it changes your awareness. And in some cases, that could be a good thing. Like smoke weed once in a while, it's fine. Like, smoke weed, you have a laugh, you get goofy, watch cartoons. Maybe you need to eat a little bit more, helps with hunger and pain. And there's lots of benefits, don't get me wrong. But for me, it was more like sitting around and stinking up my apartment and doing nothing with myself, and that kind of felt like wasted time. And again, it separated a lot of my intuitiveness. Like I just couldn't, my intuition, I couldn't connect with my body the same way. That I felt like the marijuana was just like taking over that feeling, whatever that feeling is. Um, and yeah, so and then I just kind of retuned, like, so your body's going to seek equilibrium, balance. And if you ever notice, most people's argument towards not smoking weed anymore, why they don't quit, is because they'll be an asshole. Right? That's all like the biggest thing. Oh, I'd fucking kill somebody. That's what they say. I don't know how you do it, man. I'd fucking drive somebody off the road. And I'm like, yeah, well, because your body's been up here in this headspace for so long that when you remove it, it's got to seek equilibrium. So it's got to now find the bottom, and then it's going to bounce up and down kind of uncontrollably until it seeks that level. And then eventually your body will regulate itself like it's supposed to. And I also want to talk about sleep cycles too. It's been proven. And again, I'm an advocate for whatever works for you. As long as it's not hurting you or others, or affecting your vibration in a negative way. I don't think there's really bad vibration, but there's different energies. And some energies serve you. A lot of them don't. So you can kind of it brings you more in tune to that when you're in a sober state of mind. Yeah, that's my thing though. I do energy work, and maybe it was part of like some of the trauma I've dealt with in my life that I had to seek a different way, right? Because I tried the medication, ADHD. I never did antidepressants. I did do anti-anxieties, or anxiety medication, they call it, which I think is funny. It's supposed to not give you anxiety, but I found that in some cases it gave you anxiety. And then, yeah, trying to find that balance through medication didn't work for me. Then it was like, smoke some weed, same thing. That's medication. Alcohol, same thing. Medication. None of those things worked for me. So I abandoned them all. And I don't recommend doing this. I kind of, again, stepped into life and took it on with my head down and ready to go. Um, some people, I would say, take your time. You have time, assuming you have time. Um, do it slowly and make sure you're taking care of yourself in the meantime, um, and protecting yourself. But for me, it was just like, I cut off all my medication. And my doctor was like, "Yeah, you can't do that." And I was like, "Well, I did. What do I do now? Sorry. Am I supposed to apologize for how I treat my body? I don't know." And I know I'm a special case. Not everybody's like me. So full disclaimer: if you decide to do this and it's not working, take your time. That's what the recommendation is. You're supposed to wean yourself off those medications. I just kind of like, yeah, it's not working. Done. Threw them away, or flushed them. And yeah, so I don't know. That's kind of my approach. So anyway, so how do I do it with a sober mind? It's not so much how, it's why. Why I want to do things. And I have my daughter and stuff like that, and I like to see her in a sober mind. That's my why. I want to be sober so I can fully give myself to her and be there as a dad and as a guide, you know, and be present and aware of her too. You know what I mean? And of her energies, because her energy is going to shift. And if I'm doing my job right, I have to work with her energy as it comes. Everybody's got their way to parent. And for me, it's about listening, not just with your ears, but with your body, and listening to how her, I want to say, her feelings too. I try to listen to her feelings and feel her feelings. And then that way I can further empathize with her, even though she's only 5, but be there for her in a very different way than most people, not just men or women, just parents, but just most people in her life won't get into that intimate energy sharing with her. I think I'm the only one. Hopefully it won't be the last. Somebody else can be there for her in that same way. But yeah, and then again, seeking equilibrium, helping her balance out. She's such a good kid. I'm thinking further down the line, I know there's going to be times where her energy spiked or really low, and if I'm doing my job right, I feel like I'll be able to move with her and work with her instead of for her. I talked about that in some of my previous videos about caring for somebody and then caring for somebody, right? You can't crawl into their skin and do things for them and feel for them and do this thing, do that. You can't do that. That's theirs. That's their body. It's their spirit. It's their mind. It's all of them. It's your job to kind of help from a distance, from a healthy distance. And it's important to empathize and be able to get to their level to help climb them back up to equilibrium. Because, let's say they throw a temper tantrum at some point, right? Throw something against the wall and you get mad, right? That's an attack. Even though, and again, this is just my perspective, full disclaimer, okay? But it's an attack on their spirit. And I know from personal experience, when I got reprimanded for doing something wrong, especially when it came to school and stuff like that, I shut down. Everything that you said after that reprimanding or that energy, hey, that it just cut. All circuits left my body. There's no contact anymore to hear. You're not speaking to hear, you're speaking to hear now. And that's a lower frequency, right? You're not speaking to my mind, the heaven. You're speaking to my heart. And that's a different kind of programming, right? So all of this stuff just shut down. Done. I'm done. So learning that way did not work for me. Blunt force learning never worked for me. And I know almost every person that I've ever spoken to, every person, not every person, but almost every person feels the same way. Didn't work for them either. So I'm thinking more of like through myself and my own experiences. Okay, how does she learn? I have to work with her strengths and weaknesses, right? Appropriately. If I start imposing my own will on her, I'm going to screw it up, right? And I'm not always going to get it right. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like preaching or anything, but that's my mindset. That's my why. Why do I want to be sober? Why do I want to be this? And it feels good. I'm not gonna lie, to be able to say like, yeah, I don't do anything. Like I'm good. It feels nice. I'm not gonna lie. So if you ever want to get sober, find your why, not how. How are you gonna do it? How did you do it? Because it's mostly in hindsight when people ask me, how do you do that, or how'd you do that? I just did it. There's no like, there's no how. There's why. There's only why in my mind. And the how happens, if that makes sense, right? I'm kind of speaking cryptically, but it's true. My why is at the forefront, so the how just kind of comes with it. I take action too. That's a big part of it, but that action is driven by the why, nothing else. So make the why your reason for doing anything, and you're gonna find some stuff out about yourself that not only did you not think you could do, but isn't even in the mainstream world. Like doing what I did and quitting my medication, I do not recommend. So again, full disclaimer, do not do what I did because I did it. And just because it worked for me does not mean it's going to work for you. So I want to just say, be careful with anything that you do. Be careful and be cautious and pay attention to yourself and how you're feeling. But yeah, cutting off my medication, I've done things in my life that people just find impossible. And I'm like, well, they're not, because here I am. And I feel better than I've ever felt in my life. So yeah, I have no other explanation other than try to figure out your why and make that the driving force in your life. And I'm not going to tell you that everything's going to be fine and you're just going to live in la la land and everything's going to work out for you. But when your why's strong enough, everything does work out for you, bad or good. It does. There's real truth there. So yeah, what is your why? Try to figure that out, master it, love yourself, and yeah, and we'll talk soon. Peace and love.